Daniel 1. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim Melech Yehudah came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem and besieged it. And Hashem gave Jehoiakim Melech Yehudah into his hand, with part of the vessels of the Beis HaElohim, which he carried into the land of Shinar to the house of his God, and he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God. And the king spoke unto Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the Bnei Israel, and of the kings Zerah, and of the princes, Yeladim in whom there was no blemish, but well-favored, and skillful in all chokhmah, and cunning in da'as, and understanding science, and such as had the ability in them to stand in the Heikal HaMelech, and whom they might teach the Sefer and Lashon of the Kasdim. And the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's food, and of the yayin which he drank, so nourishing them shanim shalosh, and at the end thereof they might stand before the king. Now among these were of the Bnei Yehudah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, unto whom the chief of the eunuchs gave names. He gave unto Daniel the name of Belshazzar, and to Hananiah of Shadrach, and to Mishael of Meshach, and to Azariah of Abednego. But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's delicacies, nor with the yayin which he drank. Therefore he requested of the chief of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. Now Hashem had brought Daniel into chesed and sympathy with the chief of the eunuchs. And the chief of the eunuchs said unto Daniel, I fear Adoni HaMelech, who hath appointed your meat and your drink. For why should he see your faces worse looking than the Eladim which are of your age? Then shall you make me endanger my head to the king. Then said Daniel to the steward, whom the chief of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, Prove thy servants, I beseech thee, Yamim Asarim, and let them give us vegetables to eat, and mayim to drink. Then let our countenances be looked upon before thee, and the countenance of the Yeladim that eat of the portion of the king's meat, and as thou seest, deal with thy servants. So he consented to them in this manner, and tested them Yamim Asarim, and at the end of 10 days their countenances appeared fairer and fatter in flesh than all the Yeladim which did eat the portion of the king's meat. Thus the steward took away the portion of their meat and the yayin that they should drink, and gave them vegetables. As for these 4 Yeladim, Hashem gave them knowledge and skill in all Sefer and Chokhmah, and Daniel had understanding in all Chazon and Chalumot. Now at the end of the days that the king had said he would bring them in, then the chief of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar. And the king communed with them, and among them all was found none like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore stood they before the king. And in all matters of Chokhmah and Bina that the king questioned them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers that were in Israel. And Daniel continued even unto the 1st year of King Koresh. Daniel 2. And in the 2nd year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar dreamed Chalumot, wherewith his ruach was troubled, and his sleep left him. Then the king commanded to call the magicians, and the enchanters, and the sorcerers, and the kasdim, for to show the king his Chalumot. So they came and stood before the king. And the king said unto them, I have dreamed a Chalom, and my ruach was troubled to have the ass of the Chalom. Then spoke the kasdim to the king in Aramaic, O king, live forever. Tell thy servants the Chalom, and we will show the Pesher. The king answered and said to the kasdim, The decision from me is firm. If you will not give me the ass of the Chalom,
with the pesher thereof. Ye shall be cut in pieces, and your houses shall be made a pile of rubble. But if ye show the chalom and the pesher thereof, ye shall receive of me gifts and rewards and great honor. Therefore show me the chalom and the pesher thereof. They answered again and said, Let the king tell his servants the chalom, and we will show the pesher. The king answered and said, I have thus of certainty that you would gain time, because you see the decision for me is firm. But if you will not give me the of the chalom, there is but one decree for ye. For ye have prepared lying and corrupt words to speak before me, till the tide is turned. Therefore tell me the chalom, and I shall have the that you can't show me the pesher thereof. The Kasdim answered before the king and said, There is not a man upon the earth that can show the king's matter. Therefore there is no melech, no matter how rav or powerful, that asks such things of any magician or enchanter or kasdai. And it is a rare thing that the king requireth, and there is none other that can show it before the king, except the gods whose dwelling is not with basar. For this cause the king was angry and very furious, and commanded to destroy all the Chachamim of Babylon. And the decree went forth that the Chachamim should be slain, and they sought Daniel and his Havarim to be slain. Then Daniel answered with counsel and wisdom to Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, which was gone forth to slay the Chachamim of Babylon. He answered and said to Arioch, the king's captain, Why is the decree so hasty from the king? And Arioch made the thing known to Daniel. Daniel went in and desired of the king that he would give him time, and that he would show the king the pesher. Then Daniel went to his place, and made the decree known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his Havarim. They would plead for Chachamim from the God of Shemayim concerning this class, that Daniel and his Chavarim should not perish with the rest of the Chachamim of Babylon. Then was the chaz revealed unto Daniel in the chazon of the Laila. And then Daniel said a bakah to the God of Shemayim. Daniel answered and said, Baruch Hashem Elohim, L'olam Vaed. For Chochmah and Gevurah are his, and he changeth the times and the zimanim. He removeth Melakim, and setteth up Melakim. And he giveth Chochmah unto the Chachamim, and da'as to them that know Bina. He revealeth the deep and secret things. He knoweth what is in the Choshek, and the light dwelleth with him. I thank thee and praise thee, O thou God of my fathers, who hast given me Chochmah and Gevurah, and hast given unto me da'as now of what we desired of thee. For thou hast now made known unto us the king's matter. Therefore Daniel went in unto Arioch, whom the king had appointed to destroy the Chachamim of Babylon. He went and said thus unto him, Destroy not the Chachamim of Babylon. Bring me in before the king, and I will show unto the king the pesher. Then Arioch brought in Daniel before the king in haste, and said thus unto him, I have found a man of the Bnei Golas of Yehudah that will give the as unto the king of the pesher. The king answered and said unto Daniel, whose name was Belshazzar, Art thou able to give the as unto me of the chalom, which I have seen, and the pesher thereof? Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, The raz which the king hath demanded, cannot the wise men, the enchanters, the magicians, the soothsayers show unto the king. But there is a God in Shemayim that revealeth chazim, and maketh known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the achirit hayamim. Thy chalom and the visions of thy head upon thy bed are these. As for thee, O king, thy thoughts came into thy mind upon thy bed, what should come to pass hereafter, and he that revealeth chazim maketh known to thee what shall come to pass. But as for me, till glass is not revealed to me for any chokhmah that I have more than any living, but in order that the pesher may be known to the king, and that thou mightest understand the thoughts of thy heart. Thou, O king, sawest and beheld a great tselem. This great tselem, whose brightness was extraordinary, stood before thee, and the form thereof was awesome. This tselem's head was of fine gold, his chest and his arms of silver, his middle and his thighs of bronze, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Thou sawest till that an even was cut out without hands, which struck the tselem upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and broke them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, that no trace was found of them. And the even that struck the tselem became a great mountain, and filled kol haaretz. This is the chalom, and we will tell the peshach thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art a king of kings, for the God of Shemayim hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And wheresoever the children of man dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thine hand, and hath made thee shalit over them all. Thou art this head of gold. And after thee shall arise another kingdom, inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of bronze, which shall bear rule over kol haaretz. And the fourth, mamlacha, shall be as strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces, and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and crush. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the mamlacha shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with baked clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the mamlacha shall be partly strong and partly fragile. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with baked clay, so the zera of the people will be a mixture, and will not remain united, even as iron is not mixed with clay. And in the days of these melachim shall the God of Shemayim set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these mamlechot, and it shall stand forever. For as much as thou sawest that the even was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it broke in pieces the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God hath made known to the king what shall come to pass after this. And the chalom is certain, and the pesher thereof trustworthy. Then the king Nebuchadnezzar fell upon his face, prostrate before Daniel, and paid him honor, and ordered that a mincha and incense be presented to him. The king answered unto Daniel and said, Of a surety it is that your God is God of gods, and Lord of melachim, and a revealer of glasim, seeing thou couldst reveal this glass. Then the king exalted Daniel to a high position, and gave him many great matanot, and made him shalit over the whole province of Babylon, and placed him in charge of all the chachamim of Babylon. Then Daniel requested of the king, and he set Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon. But Daniel remained at the royal court. Daniel 3. Nebuchadnezzar the king made a tselem of gold, whose height was 60 cubits, and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. He set it up in the plain of Dura, in the province of Babylon. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king sent to gather together the satraps, the prefects, and the governors, the judges and treasurers, the counselors, the magistrates, and all the rulers of the provinces to come to the dedication of the tselem which Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Then the satraps, the prefects and governors, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the magistrates, and all the rulers of the provinces were gathered together unto the dedication of the tselem that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. And they stood before the tselem that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then Achaz cried aloud, To you it is commanded, O people, nations, and languages, that at what time ye hear the sound of the flute, horn, harp, lyre, psaltery, pipes, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the golden Salem that Nebuchadnezzar the king hath set up. And whoso falleth not down and worshippeth shall the same hour be cast into the midst of a burning fiery atun. Therefore, at that time, when all the people heard the sound of the horn, flute, harp, lyre, psaltery, and all kinds of music, all the people, the nations, and the languages, fell down and worshipped the golden Salem that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Wherefore at that time certain Kassim came near, and accused the Yehudim. They spoke, and said to the king Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. Thou, O king, hast made a decree that every man that shall hear the sound of the horn, flute, harp, lyre, psaltery, and pipes, and all kinds of music, shall fall down and worship the golden Salem. And whoso falleth not down and worshipeth, that he shall be cast into the midst of a burning fiery atun. There are certain Yehudim, whom thou hast set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have disregarded thee. They serve Pilamadchet, not thy gods, nor worship the golden Salem which thou hast set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar in his rage and fury commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar spoke and said to them, Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Do you not serve my gods, or worship the golden Salem which I have set up? Now if you be ready, that at what time ye hear the sound of the horn, flute, harp, lyre, psaltery, and pipes, and all kinds of music, you fall down and worship that Salem which I have made well. But if you worship not, ye shall be cast the same hour into the midst of a burning fiery atun. And who is that God that shall deliver you out of my hands? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered, and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not needful to answer thee in this matter. If it be so, Eloheinu whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thine hand, O king. But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not be the ones serving his deity, Pelamadchet, thy gods, nor worship the golden Salem which thou hast set up. Then was Nebuchadnezzar full of fury, and the expression on his visage changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Therefore he spoke and commanded that they should heat the atun 7 times hotter than usual. And he commanded certain Gibborim of valor that were in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and to cast them into the burning fiery atun. Then these Anashim were bound in their mantles, their tunics, and their turbans, and their other garments, and were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king's commandment was severe, and the furnace exceedingly hot, the flames of the Aish violently killed those men that took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down bound into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished, and rose up in haste, and spoke, and said unto his counselors, Did we not cast Shlosha Anashim bound into the midst of the Aish? They answered, and said unto the king, True, O king? He answered and said, Lo, I see Anashim Arba'ah, free, walking in the midst of the Aish, and they have no hurt, and the form of the 4th is like the Bar Elohim, or Ben Elohim in Hebrew. Then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the door of the burning fiery furnace, and spoke, and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, ye servants of El Elyon, come forth, and come hither. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth in the midst of the Aish. And the satraps, governors, and administrators, and the king's counselors, being gathered together, saw these men, upon whose bodies the Aish had no power, nor was a hair of their head singed, neither were their garments affected, nor the smell of Aish had passed on them. Then Nebuchadnezzar spoke and said, Baruch Elohim shel Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who hath sent his malak and delivered his servants that trusted in him, and frustrated the king's word, and yielded their bodies that they might not serve Pe Lamadret, nor worship any god except their own God. Therefore, I make a decree that every people, nation, and language which speak anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut in pieces, and their houses shall be made a pile of rubble, because there is no other God that can deliver like this.
Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. Daniel 4. Nebuchadnezzar, the king, unto all people, nations, and languages that dwell in the earth. Shalom Aleichem lemachbir. Peace be multiplied unto you. I thought it good to show the otot and mofetim that El Elyon hath wrought toward me. How great are his otot, and how mighty are his mofetim. His kingdom is a malchut olam, and his dominion is from door to door. I, Nebuchadnezzar, was at rest in mine vice, and prospering in my Hekal. I saw Halom, which made me afraid, and the thoughts upon my bed and the chasonot of my head troubled me. Therefore made I a decree to bring in all the Chochamim of Babylon before me, that they might give me the ass of the pesher of the Chalom. Then came in the magicians, the enchanters, the castim, and the soothsayers, and I told the Chalom before them, but they did not make known unto me the pesher thereof. But at last Daniel came in before me, whose name was Belshazzar, according to Hashem of my God, and in whom is the Ruach Elohim Kadishin, Ruach Elohim HaKodesh in Hebrew. And before him I told the Chalom, saying, O Belshazzar, chief of the magicians, because I know that the Ruach Elohim Kadishin is in thee, and no raz troubleth thee. Tell me the visions of my Chalom that I have seen, and the pesher thereof. Thus were the chasonot of mine head in my bed. I was looking, and Hine and Etz in the midst of the earth, and the height thereof was great. The Etz grew and was strong, and the height thereof reached unto Shemayim, and visibility thereof extended to the end of Kol Haaretz. The leaves thereof were lovely, and the pli thereof abundant, and in it was food for all. The beasts of the field found shade under it, and the fowls of the heaven dwelt in the boughs thereof, and Kol Basar was fed of it. I saw the chasonot of my head upon my bed, and Hine and Ir, a Malak HaKodesh, came down from Shemayim. He cried with strength and said thus, Chop down the tree, and cut off his branches, strip off his leaves, and scatter his pli. Let the beasts get away from under it, and the fowls from his branches. Nevertheless leave the stump of his roots in the earth, even with a band of iron and bronze in the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let it partake with the beasts in the grass of Haaretz. Let his lev be changed from a man's, and let a beast's lev be given unto him, and let 7 times pass over him. This matter is by the decree of the Irin, and the demand by the word of the Kedoshim, to the intent that the living may have the as that Elyon ruleth in the Malchut Ha'adam, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth over it the basest of men. This Halom I, King Nebuchadnezzar, have seen. Now thou, O Belshazzar, declare the pesher thereof, forasmuch as all the Chachamim of my Malchut are not able to make known unto me the pesher, but thou art able, for the Ruach Elohim Kadishin is in thee. Then Daniel, whose name was Belshazzar, was perplexed for a time, and his thoughts troubled him. The king spoke and said, Belshazzar, let not the Halom or the pesher thereof trouble thee. Belshazzar answered and said, Mari, if only the Halom concerned them that hate thee, and the pesher thereof thine enemies. The Etz that thou sawest, which grew and was strong,
whose height reached unto Shemayim, and the visibility thereof extended to Kol Haaretz, whose leaves were lovely, and the plea thereof abundant, and in it was food for all, under which the beasts of the earth dwelt, and upon whose branches the fowls of heaven had their habitation. It is thou, O king. Thou art grown and become strong, for thy greatness is grown, and reacheth unto Shemayim, and thy dominion to the end of Haaretz. And whereas the king saw in Ir, a Malach HaKodesh come down from Shemayim, and saying, chop the Etz down and destroy it, yet leave the stump of the roots thereof in the earth, even with the band of iron and bronze, and the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let him partake with the beasts of the field till 7 times pass over him. This is the Pesher, O king. And this is the decree of Elyon, which has come upon Mari, the king, that they shall drive thee from Anashim, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field, and they shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and they shall wet thee with the dew of heaven, and 7 times shall pass over thee, till thou have da'as that Elyon ruleth in Malchut Ha'adam, and giveth it to whomsoever he will. And whereas they commanded to leave the stump of the Etz with its roots, thy Malchut shall be assured unto thee. After that thou shalt have da'as that Shemayim does rule. Wherefore, O king, let my counsel be acceptable unto thee, and break off thy sins by tzedek, and thine iniquities by showing mercy to the poor, if it may be a prolonging of thy tranquility. All this came upon the king Nebuchadnezzar. At the end of 12 months he walked about the high call of the Malchut of Babylon. The Melech spoke and said, Is not this great Babylon that I have built for a world dwelling by the might of my power and for the honor of my majesty? Ah! While the word was in the king's mouth, there fell a voice from Shemayim, saying, O King Nebuchadnezzar, to thee it is spoken, the Malchut has been taken from thee, and they shall drive thee from Anashim, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field. They shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and 7 times shall pass over thee until thou have da'as that Elyon ruleth in the Malchut Ha'adam, and giveth it to whoever he will. The same hour was the thing fulfilled upon Nebuchadnezzar, and he was driven from Anashim, did eat grass as oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven till his hair had grown like eagle's feathers, and his nails like birds' claws. And at the end of the time, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted up mine eyes unto Shemayim, and mine da'as returned unto me, and I said, Baruch el Elyon, and I praised and honored him that liveth forever, whose dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his Malchut is from Dor Vador. And all the inhabitants of Haaretz are considered as nothing, and he doeth according to his will in the tzivos Hashmayim, and among the inhabitants of Haaretz, and none can restrain his hand or say unto him, What doest thou? At the same time my da'as returned unto me, and for the kavod of my Malchut, mine honor and splendor returned unto me, and my counselors and my nobles sought unto me, and I was established in my Malchut. An excellent majesty was added unto me. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the Melech Hashemayim, all whose works are emes, and his ways mishpat, and those that walk in ga'ava, pride, he is able to abase.
Daniel 5. Belshazzar the king made a mishte gadol to 1,000 of his nobles, and drank wine before the 1,000. Belshazzar, while he tasted the wine, commanded to bring the golden and silver vessels which his forefather Nebuchadnezzar had taken out of the Beis Hamikdash, which was in Jerusalem, that the king and his princes, his wives and his concubines might drink therein. Then they brought the golden vessels that were taken out of the Beis Hamikdash of the Beis HaElohim, which was at Jerusalem, and the king and his princes, his wives and his concubines, drank in them. They drank wine and praised the gods of gold, and of silver, of bronze, of iron, of wood, and of stone. In the same hour came forth fingers of a man's yad, and wrote opposite the menorah upon the plaster of the wall of the king's Heikal. And the king saw the part of the yad that wrote. Then the king's countenance was changed, and his machshavot troubled him, so that the joints of his hips were loosed and his knees knocked together. The king cried aloud to bring him the enchanters and the kasdim and the soothsayers. And the king spoke and said to the Chachamim of Babylon, Whosoever shall read this miktav and show me the pesher thereof shall be clothed with purple and have a chain of gold about his neck, and shall be the third ruler in the Malchut. Then came in all the king's Chachamim, but they could not read the miktav, nor make known to the king the pesher thereof. Then was King Belshazzar greatly troubled, and his countenance was changed in him, and his nobles were perplexed. Now the Malka, by reason of the words of the king and his nobles, came into the banquet house. And the Malka spoke and said, O king, live forever. Let not thy thoughts trouble thee, nor let thy countenance be changed. There is a man in thy Malchut, in whom is the Ruach Elohim Kadeshim, and in the days of thy forefather Or and Seikel and Chokhmah, like the Chokhmah of Ha-Elohim was found in him. The king Nebuchadnezzar, thy forefather. The king, I say, thy forefather made him chief of the magicians, enchanters, kasdim, and soothsayers, forasmuch as an excellent ruach and da'as and seichel, interpreting of chalamot and solving riddles and explaining enigmas, were found in the same Daniel, whom the king named Belshazzar. Now let Daniel be called, and he will show the pesher. Then was Daniel brought in before the king, and the king spoke and said unto Daniel, Art thou that Daniel, which art of the Bnei Golus of Yehudah, whom the king my forefather brought out of Yehudah? I have even heard of thee, that the Ruach Elohim is in thee, and that Or and Seikel and excellent Chokhmah is found in thee. And now the Chachamim, the enchanters, have been brought in before me, that they should read this miktav and give me das of the pesher thereof, but they could not show the pesher of the thing. And I have heard of thee, that thou canst give interpretations and explain enigmas. Now if thou canst read the miktav, and make known to me the pesher thereof, thou shalt be clothed in purple, and have a chain of gold about thy neck, and shall be the third ruler in the Malchut. Then Daniel answered and said before the king, Let thy gifts be to thyself, and give thy rewards to another. Yet I will read the miktav unto the king, and make known to him the pesher. O thou king, El Elyon gave Nebuchadnezzar thy forefather a Malchut, and Gedulah, and Kavod, and Hadar. And for the Gedulah that he gave him, all peoples, nations, and languages trembled and feared before him. Whom he would he violently killed, and whom he would he kept alive, and whom he would he set up, and whom he would he put down. But when his heart was lifted up, and his ruach hardened in Ga'ava, he was deposed from his kingly throne, and they took his kavod from him. And he was driven from the Bnei Ha'adam, and his lev was made like the beasts, and his dwelling was with the wild donkeys. They fed him with grass like oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till he knew that El Elyon ruled in the Malchut Ha'adam, and that he appointed over it whomsoever he will. And thou, his son, O Belshazzar, hast not humbled thine lev, though thou had da'as of all this, but hast lifted up thyself against Hashem of Shemayim, and have brought the vessels of his Beit HaMikdash before thee, and thou and thy nobles, thy wives and thy concubines, have drunk wine in them. And thou hast praised the gods of silver and gold, of bronze, iron, wood, and stone, which see not, nor hear, nor know, and the God in whose hand thy breath is, and whose are all thy ways, hast thou not glorified. Then was the part of the Yad sent from him, and this miktav was written. And this is the miktav that was written, Mene, Mene Tekel Ufarsin. This is the pesher of the thing. Mene, God hath numbered thy Malchut, and finished with it. Tekel, thou art weighed in the balances, and art found wanting. Perez, Perez, thy Malchut is divided, and given to the Medes and the Persians. Then commanded Belshazzar, and they clothed Daniel with purple, and put a chain of gold about his neck, and made a proclamation concerning him, that he should be the third ruler in the Malchut. And that night was Belshazzar, the king of the Kasdim, slain. And Dariavesh the Mede took the Malchut, being about 62 years old. Daniel 6. It pleased Dariavesh to set over the Malchut 120 satraps, which should be over the whole Malchut, and over these 3 overseers, of whom Daniel was one, that the satraps might give accounts unto them, and that the king should suffer no loss. Then this Daniel distinguished himself above the overseers and satraps, because an excellent ruach was in him, and the king thought to set him over the whole malchut. Then the overseers and satraps sought to find occasion against Daniel concerning the malchut, but they could find none occasion nor fault, for as much as he was trustworthy, neither was there any negligence or corrupt thing found in him. Then said these Anashim, "We shall not find any occasion against this Daniel, except to find it against him concerning the dot of his God." Then the overseers and satraps assembled together to the king, and said thus unto him, "King Darius leolam yehayeh." All the overseers of the malchut, the administrators and the satraps, the counselors and the governors, have consulted together to establish a royal statute and to make a firm decree, that whosoever shall make a petition of any god or man for 30 yom, except of thee, O king, he shall be cast into the den of lions. Now, O king, establish the decree and sign the kitav, that it cannot be changed according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which altereth not. Wherefore King Darius signed the written decree. Now, when Daniel knew that the kitav was signed, he went into his bayis, and his windows being open in his chamber toward Yerushalayim, he knelt down 3 times that day, and davened, and gave thanks before his God as he had been doing before this. Then these Anashim assembled, and found Daniel davening and making supplication before his God. Then they came near and spoke before the king concerning the king's decree. "Hast thou not signed a decree, that every man that shall make a petition of any god or man within 30 yom, except of thee, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions?" The king answered, and said, "The thing is true, according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which cannot be changed." Then they answered and said before the king, "That Daniel, which is of the Bnei Golus of Yehuda, shows no regard for thee, O king, nor the decree that thou hast signed, but maketh his petition 3 times a day." Then the king, when he heard these words, was greatly displeased with himself, and set his heart on Daniel to deliver him, and he did strive to the going down of the Shemesh to deliver him. Then these Anashim assembled unto the king, and said unto the king, "Have thus, O king, that the law of the Medes and Persians is this, that no decree nor statute which the king establisheth may be changed." Then the king commanded, and they brought Daniel, and cast him into the den of lions. Now the king spoke, and said unto Daniel, "Elohecha, whom thou servest continually, he will deliver thee." And an event was brought, and laid upon the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet ring, and with the signet ring of his nobles, that the purpose might not be changed concerning Daniel. Then the king went to his hekal, and spent the night fasting, neither were entertainments brought before him, and his Shena fled from him. Then the king arose very early in the boker, and went in haste unto the den of lions, and when he came to the den, he cried with an anguished voice unto Daniel. And the king spoke and said to Daniel, "O Daniel, Eved of Elohim Hachai, is thy God, whom thou servest continually, able to deliver thee from the lions?" Then said Daniel unto the king, "O king, Leolam Yihye, my God had sent his malach, and hath shut the lions' mouths, that they have not hurt me, for as much as before him innocence was found in me, and also before thee, O king, have I done no wrong." Then was the king exceedingly glad for him, and commanded that they should take Daniel up out of the den. So Daniel was taken out of the den, and no manner of hurt was found upon him, because he had emunah in his God. And the king commanded, and they brought those Anashim which had accused Daniel, and they cast them into the den of lions, them, their children, and their wives, and the lions overpowered them, and broke all their bones in pieces, before they ever came to the bottom of the den. Then King Darius wrote unto all the people, nations, and languages that dwell in Kol Haaretz, "Shalom Aleichem Lemachbir. I make a decree, that in every dominion of my manhood men must tremble and fear before the God of Daniel, for he is Elohim Hachai, and steadfast Leolamim. And his malchut, that which shall not be destroyed, and his dominion
shall we even add Hashoff. He delivereth and rescueth, and he worketh Otot and Mofetim in Shemayim and in Haaretz, who hath delivered Daniel from the power of the lions.
So this Daniel prospered in the reign of Dariavesh, and in the reign of Koresh, the Persian. Daniel, servant. In the first year of Belshazzar Melech Babylon, Daniel saw a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote down the dream and the sum of the matters he related. Daniel answered and said, I saw in my vision that came by night, and Hine, the Achbal Hukot of Shemayim burst forth upon the Yam Hagadol, and 4 Chayot Hagedolot, great beasts, came up from the Yam, different one from another. Harishonah was like an Aryeh, and had eagle's wings. I was beholding until its wings were plucked off, and it was lifted up from Haaretz, and was made to stand upon 2 feet, like a man, and a man's lev was given to it. And he named another beast, a second like a bear, and was raised up one side, and 3 ribs were in its mouth, between its teeth, and it was said thus unto it, Arise, devour much basar. After this I beheld, and in another, like a leopard, which had upon its sides 4 wings of a bird. The beast also had Arba'ah Chashim, and dominion was given to it. After this I saw in the night visions, and in a 4th Chayah, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It was devouring and crushing and trampling the residue with its feet, and it was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had Eser Karnaim. I was contemplating the Karnaim, and in there came up among them another Kelen, a little one, before whom there were 3 of the first Karnaim plucked up by the roots. And in this Kelen were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. I was beholding until Kisot were placed, and the Atik Yomin did sit, whose raiment was like white snow, and the hair of his rosh like pure wool. His kes was like the fiery flames, and his wheels like burning ash. A river of ash was flowing, and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The court sat, and the sfarim were opened. I was beholding from the voice of the arrogant words which the Kelen spoke. I was beholding even till the Chayab was slain, and his body destroyed and given to the burning ash. As concerning the rest of the beasts, their dominion was taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a time and a season. I was beholding in visions of the night, and Hine, one like a Bar Enosh, came with the clouds of Shemayim, and came to the Atik Yomin, and before him he was brought, and there was given him dominion and honor and sovereignty, that all people, goyim tongues, should pay lamed chet. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. As for me, Daniel, my ruach was anxious in the midst of my body, and the visions of my head were troubling me. I drew near to one of the attendants to ask him the certainty concerning all this, and he said to me that he would make me to have the as of the pesher of the things. These chayot hagedol, which are arba, are 4 melakim, which shall arise out of haaretz. But the karoshim elyon shall receive the kingdom, and shall possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. Then I desired to make sure concerning the 4 chayah, which was different from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron and its claws brass. It was devouring, crushing, and stamping the residue with its feet. And concerning the Eser Kadayim that were in its head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes, and a mouth that spoke arrogant things, which seemed greater than the others. I was beholding, and the same Kelen made war against the Kadoshim, and prevailed against them, until the Atik Yomin came, and judgment was given for the Kadoshim Elyon, and the time came that the Kadoshim possessed the kingdom. This is what he said: The 4th Chayah shall be a 4th kingdom upon earth, which shall be different from all kingdoms,
and shall devour Kol Haaretz, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. And the Aser Karnaim out of this kingdom are Asara Melakim that shall arise, and another shall arise after them, and he shall be different from first, and he shall subdue 3 Melakim. And he shall speak great words against Elyon, and shall wear out the Kadoshim Elyon, and think to change said times and law, that they shall be given into his hand until time, and times and half a time. But judgment was given, and there was taken away its power to destroy and to annihilate unto the end, and dominion and sovereignty and greatness of the kingdom under Kol Hashemayim shall be given to the people of the Kadoshim Elyon, whose kingdom is a Malchut Olam, and all dominion shall serve and obey them. Unto this point is the end of the matter. As for me, Daniel, my thoughts much troubled me, and the color of my countenance changed upon me, but I kept the matter in my left. In the Shanat Shalosh of the reign of Belshazzar HaMelech, a Chazon appeared unto me, Daniel, after that which appeared unto me in the beginning. And I beheld in a Chazon, and it came to pass while I was seeing that I was in Shushan, the fortress, which is in the province of Elam, and I saw in a Chazon, and I was by the stream Ulai. Then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and there stood before the stream a ram which had 2 Karnaim, and the 2 Karnaim were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher was coming up last. I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no Chayot might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will, and made a great display of strength. And as I was considering, a he-goat was coming from the west on the face of Kol Haaretz, and it was not touching the earth. And as to the goat, it had a conspicuous keren between its eyes. And he came to the ram that had 2 Karnaim, which I had seen standing before the stream, and he ran against him with the wrath of his quack. And I saw him approaching the ram, and he was enraged against him, and he smote the ram and broke his 2 Karnaim, and there was no quack in the ram to stand before him, and he cast him down to the ground and trampled him. There was none to deliver the ram from him. Therefore the he-goat was acting very presumptuously, and when he was powerful, the Keren Hagedolah was broken, and in the place of it came up conspicuously 4 toward the Arba Ruchot Hashmayim. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which became exceeding great, toward the south, and toward the east, and toward the Hatzevi. And it became great, even unto the Tzva Hashmayim, and it caused to fall down to the earth some of the host, and some of the Kokavim it trampled. Yea, he magnified himself even unto the Sar Hatzavah, and the daily sacrifice was taken away from him, and the place of his Mikdash was cast down. And Etziva was given over to oppose the daily sacrifice on account of Pesha, and it cast down Emes to the ground, and it acted and prospered. Then I heard one Kadosh speaking, and another Kadosh said unto that certain Kadosh which spoke, How long shall the Chazon concerning the daily sacrifice, and the desolating Pesha, to give both the Kodesh and the Tzva to be trodden under foot? And he said unto me, Unto Erev Boker 2,300, then shall the Kodesh be vindicated. And it came to pass, when even I, Daniel, was beholding Chazon, that I saw the meaning. Then, there stood before me as the appearance of a man, and I heard a Kol Adam amidst the Ulai. And he called and said, Gabriel, cause this one to understand the vision. So he came near where I was, and as he came I was filled with fear, and I fell down upon my face. But he said unto me, Understand, O Ben Adam, the Chazon points to the time of the Getz. Now while he was speaking with me, I swooned upon my face toward the ground. But he touched me and made me stand upright, and he said, Hineni, I will cause thee to know that which shall take place in the latter part of Haza'am, since at a Moed the Ketz shall be. The ram which thou sawest having 2 Karnaim are the Melakim of Media and Paras, and the shaggy he-goat is Melech Yavan, and the Keren Hagedolah that is between his eyes, the Melech Harishon. Now one being broken and forced up in his place, 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his koach, and in the latter time of their kingdom, when Haposheim are come to the full, a Melech of unyielding countenance and mastering intrigue shall stand up, and his clock shall be mighty, but not by his own clock, and he shall cause astounding destruction, and shall prosper and accomplish, and shall destroy the mighty and Kedoshim. And by his cunning also he shall cause Myanmar to prosper through his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his live, and by peace shall destroy Chabim. He shall also stand up against the Zarim, but he shall be broken without hand. And the vision of the evening and the morning which was told is Emes, and thou, shut up the Chasun, for shall be many Yamim. And I, Daniel, was faint, and lay ill several Yamim. Afterward I rose up and did the king's business. I was astonished at the vision, but without understanding it.
Daniel 9. In the Shnatachat of Daryavish ben Ahasuerus by Zerah Amid, who was made Melech over the realm of the Kasdim. In the Shnatachat of his reign, I, Daniel, received Baina from the Svarim of the number of the Shanim, that the Devar Hashem was unto Yirmiyah HaNavi with respect to the desolations of Yerushalayim. Shivim Shana must be completed. And I set my face unto Adonai HaElohim to plead by tefillah and tachanunim, with a tzom and sackcloth and ashes, and I davened unto Hashem Elohai, and I made vidui and said, O Adonai HaEl HaGadol VeHanorah, Shomer HaBrit VeHaChesed, to them that love him, and to them that are Shomrei Mitzvot. We have sinned, and we have committed iniquity, and we have done wickedly, and we have rebelled, even by departing from thy mitzvot and from thy mishpatim. Neither have we heeded or listened unto thy avadim the Nevi'im, which spoke in thy name unto our Melakim, our Tzarim, and our Avot, and to kol am ha'aretz. To thee, Adonai, is the tzedekah, but unto us is poshet hapanim, is at Yom Hazeh, to the men of Yehuda, and to the Yoshvei Yerushalayim, and unto Kol Yisrael, that are near and that are far off, through all the countries whither thou hast driven them, because of their ma'al, wherein they have dealt unfaithfully against thee. O Hashem, to us belongeth Poshet Hapanim, to our Melakim, to our Sarim, and to our Avot, because we have sinned against thee. To Adonai Eloheinu belong the Rachamim and the Selichot, for we have rebelled against him. Neither have we obeyed the voice of Hashem Eloheinu to walk in his Torah, which he has set before us by the hand of his Avadim the Nevi'im. Yea, Kol Yisrael has transgressed thy Torah, even by departing, refusing to obey thy Kol. Therefore, Ha'Allah is poured upon us, and Hashavua, that is written in the Torah Moshe the Eved HaElohim, because we have sinned against him. And he hath confirmed his words which he spoke concerning us and concerning our Shofetim who judged us, that he would bring upon us a Ra'ah Gedulah, so that there was not done in Kol Hashemaim what has been done to Yerushalayim, even as it is written in the Torah Moshe, all Hara'ah Hazot is come upon us. Yet we have not mollified the face of Hashem Eloheinu by turning away from Avonenu and by having Seichel in thy emes. Therefore hath Hashem watched upon the Ra and brought it upon us, for Hashem Eloheinu is tzadik in all his ma'asim which he doeth, for we obeyed not his call. And now Adonai Eloheinu, who has brought thy people forth out of Eretz Mitzrayim with a yad chazakah, and hast gotten thee renowned, as at Yom Hazeh we have sinned and we have done wickedly. O Adonai, according to all thy tzidkot, I beseech thee, let thine anger and thy fury be turned away from thy Ir Yerushalayim, thy Har Kodesh, because for Chatei Einu, and for the Avonot Avotenu, Yerushalayim and thy people are become a reproach and object of scorn to all around about us. Now therefore, Shema Eloheinu, hear the tefillah of thy Eved and his tachanunim, and cause thy face to shine upon thy mikdash that is desolate lema'an Adonai. O Elohai, incline thine ear, and Shema, open thine eyes, And behold our desolations, and Ta'ir, which is called by thy name, for we do not present Tachanunenu before thee on account of Tzidkotenu, but for the sake of thy Rachamim HaChabim. Adonai, hear, Adonai, forgive. Adonai, hearken and act, delay not for thine own sake, O Elohai, for thy city and thy people are called by thy name. And while I was speaking, and davening tefillos, and making vidoi for me and for Ami Yisrael, and laying my techina before Hashem Elohai, for the sake of HaKodesh, of Elohai, yea, while I was davening in tefillah, even Ha'ish Gavriel, whom I had seen in the Chazon in the beginning, being caused to fly in weariness, reached me about the time of the Minchat Erev. And he instructed me and spoke with me and said, O Daniel, I am now come forth to make thee have seichel in Bina. At the beginning of thy Tachanunim, a commandment went forth, and I am come to make the word known, for thou art greatly valued, and therefore understand the Devar and consider the vision. Shivi'im heptads is decreed upon thy people and upon thy Ir Kodesh, to restrain the Pesha and to make an end of Chatat, and to make a kapora for Avon, and to bring in Tzedek Olamim, and to seal up the Chazon and Navi, and to anoint the Kodesh HaKodashim. Have the As, therefore, and get Seichel, that from the going forth of the decree to restore and to rebuild Yerushalayim, unto Moshiach Nagid shall be Shiva heptads, and 62 heptads. The Rechov shall be built again, and the Chautz, even in troublous times. And after 62 heptads, Yikaret Moshiach, but not for himself, and the troops of the coming Nagid shall destroy the Ir and the Kodesh, and the end thereof shall come with a flood, and unto the end there shall be war. Desolations are determined. And he shall confirm Brit with Rabim for 1 heptad, and in the midst of the heptad he shall cause the Zivak and the Mincha to cease, and on the Kenaf of the abominations is one making desolate, even unto the complete destruction, a destruction that is decreed, shall be poured out upon the Shomem.
In the Shnat Shlosh of Koresh, Melech Paras, a Devar was revealed unto Daniel, Shmo called Belteshazzar, and Emes was the Devar, and of a Tzavar Gadol, and he understood the Devar, and had bined up the vision. In those days I, Daniel, was mourning a full Shlosha Shavuim. Choice lechem I did not eat, neither came basar nor yayin into my mouth, neither did I anoint myself at all, until the completing the full Shloset Shavuim. And in the 24th Yom of the Chodesh HaRishon, as I was on the bank of the Nahar Hagadol, which is the Tigris, then I lifted up mine eyes and looked, and there before me was an Ish clothed in linen, around whose waist was a belt of the finest gold of Opaz. His Gevia also was like the chrysolite, and his face like the appearance of lightning, and his eyes like torches of Aish, and his Zeroot, and his Leklaim like in color to polished bronze, and the sound of his words were like the Kol Hamon. And I, Daniel, alone saw the vision, for the Anashim that were with me saw not the vision. But a Hachada Gedolah fell upon them, and they fled, for they hid themselves. Therefore I was left alone, and saw this great vision, and there remained no quack in me, for my hold was changed upon me to disfigurement, and I retained no quack. Then I heard the call of his words, and when I heard the call of his words, then I was in deep sleep on my face, and my face was on the ground. And Hine, a Yad touched me, and raised me, trembling upon my knees and upon the palms of my hands. And he said unto me, O Daniel, Ish Chamudot, understand the Devarim that I speak unto thee, and stand upright, for unto thee now Shulachti. And when he had spoken the Devar Hazeh unto me, I stood trembling. Then he said unto me, Al Tira, Daniel, for from the Yom Harishon that thou didst set thine lev to understand, Ule hitanot, before Elohecha, thy words were heard, and I am come because of thy words. But the Sar Malchut Paras was standing before me 21 Yamim, but Hine Mikael, one of the Sarim
Harishanim came to help me, and I was detained there with the Melakim Paras. Now I am come to give thee Baina of what shall befall thy people in the Acharit Yamim, for there is still a Chazon for Yamim. And while he was speaking such devarim unto me, I bowed my face toward the ground, and I became unable to speak. And a one with the likeness of the Bnei Adam touched my lips, and then I opened my mouth and spoke, and said unto him that stood before me, Adoni, because of the vision my pangs have overcome me, and I have retained no koach. For how is the Eved Adoni here able to speak with such as Adoni? For as for me, now no koach remains in me, neither is the neshama left in me. Then he came again and touched me, one like the appearance of a man, v'yechazkeni, and said, Al tila ish chamudot, shalom diyu chazak, yeh chazak. And when he had spoken unto me, I felt myself strengthened, and said, Let Adoni speak, for thou hast strengthened me. Then he said, Knowest thou why I have come unto thee? And now I shall return to fight against the Sar Pachas, and when I am gone forth, the Sar Yavan comes. But I shall make known to thee that which is inscribed in the writing of Emes. And there is no one, means Chazak, with me in these things, but Mikael, your Sar.
Daniel 11. Also I, in the Shnat Achat of Daryavish the Mede, I stood to support and to strengthen him. And now will I show thee the Emes. Hanei et Shlosha Melakim will arise in the Paras, and the fourth shall, with Osher Gadol, be abundantly rich above all. And by his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Yavan. And a Melech Gibor shall arise, that shall rule with Mim Shal Rav, and do Kiet Sonor. And when he shall arise, his Malchut shall be broken, and shall be divided into the Araba Ruchot Hashmaim. And not to his posterity, nor according to his rule which he ruled for his kingdom, shall be plucked up, even for others apart from these. And Hamelech HaNegev shall be strong, and one of his Sarim, and he shall be strong above him, and will rule. A great rule is his rule. And at the end of some Shanim they shall join themselves together as allies, for the daughter of Hamelech HaNegev shall come unto the Melech HaTzafon to make an agreement, but she shall not retain the koach HaZeroah, neither shall he stand, nor his Zeroah, but she shall be given up, and they that brought her, and he that fathered her, and he that strengthened her in those times. But out of a netzer of her roots shall one stand up in his place, which shall come into an army, and shall enter into the stronghold of Hamelech HaTzafon, and shall deal with them, and shall show strength. And also their gods with their molten images, and with their precious vessels of silver and gold, he will bring into captivity to Mitzrayim, and he shall refrain some shanim from Hamelech HaTzafon. So he shall come into his kingdom of Hamelech HaNegev, and shall return into his own land. But his banim shall be stirred up, and shall assemble a multitude of great forces, and he shall certainly come, and overflow, and pass through. Then shall he return, and shall stir himself up, even to his fortress. And Hamelech HaNegev shall be moved with rage, and shall go forth and fight with him, even with Hamelech HaTzafon. And he shall raise a great multitude, but the multitude shall be given to his hand. And the multitude shall be carried away. His leg shall be lifted up, and he shall cause thousands to fall, but will not be strong. For Hamelech HaTzafon shall again raise a multitude, greater than the former, and at the end of some Shanim he will certainly come with a great army and with great substance. And in those times many shall stand up against Hamelech HaNegev, and also the sons of the transgressors of thy people shall exalt themselves to establish the vision, but they shall stumble. So Hamelech HaTzafon shall come, and shall cast up an entrenchment, and shall take a fortified city, and the forces of the south shall not stand, even their choicest troops, and there is no power to stand. But he that cometh against him shall do according to his own will, and none shall stand before him, and he shall stand in Eretz HaTzevi, and destruction in his hand. He shall also set his face to come with the strength of his whole kingdom, and an agreement is with him, and he shall make it, and he shall give him the daughter of women to destroy it. But she shall not stand, neither before him. After he turns his face into the isles, and shall take many, a magistrate shall cause his reproach to cease for him, except that his reproach shall return to him. Then he shall turn his face toward the fortresses of his own land, but he shall stumble and fall, and will not be found. Then shall stand up in his place one who causes an exactor to pass through for the glory of the Malchut. But within a few yamim he shall be broken, neither in anger nor in battle. And in his place shall stand up a vile person, to whom they shall not give the glory of the Malchut, but he shall come in unawares and obtain the kingdom by intrigues. And an overwhelming army will be swept away before him, and shall be broken, yea, also the Nagid Brit. And after the league made with him, he shall practice deceit, for he shall go up and shall become strong with a small people. He shall enter unawares even into the fattest of the provinces, and he shall do that which his avot have not done, nor his avot of his avot. He shall scatter among them the spoil and booty and possessions, yea, and he shall plan his devices against the strongholds, even for a time. And he shall stir up his power and his courage against the Melech HaNegev with a great army. And HaMelech HaNegev shall be stirred up for battle with a very great and mighty army. But he shall not stand, for they shall devise devices against him. Yea, they that eat the portion of his meat shall destroy him, and his army shall overflow, and many shall fall down slain. And the hearts of both these Melachim shall be for evil, and they shall speak lies at one shulchan, but it shall not prosper, for yet the end shall be at the time appointed. Then shall he return into his land with great riches, and his lev shall be against the Brit Kodesh, and he shall do exploits, and return to his own land. At the time appointed he shall return, and come again to this house, but it shall not be as at the first, so at the last, for the ships of Kittim shall come against him. Therefore he shall be disheartened, shall return, and rage against the Brit Kodesh, so shall he do. He shall even return, and will fix his attention upon those that forsake the Brit Kodesh. And forces from him will stand, and they shall desecrate the Mikdash, the citadel, and shall do away with Hatamid, and set up the Shikuts Meshomem. And such as do wickedly against the Brit shall he pervert in intrigue. But the people who know their God shall be strong, and will do. And they that understand among the people shall instruct many, yet they shall fall by the sword, and by flame, by captivity, and through despoilment for many yamim. Now when they shall fall, they shall be helped with little help. Many shall cleave to them in intrigue, and some of them of understanding shall fall to try them, and to purify and to make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed. And HaMelech shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak monstrous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the wrath be accomplished, for that is determined, shall be done. Neither shall he regard the God of his avot, nor the desire of women, nor regard any god, for he shall magnify himself above all. But in his place shall he honor the God of fortresses, and a God whom his avot knew not shall he honor with sahav and kesef, and with precious stones and things desired. Thus shall he do to the fortresses of the strongholds with the help of a foreign god, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory, and he shall cause them to rule over many, and shall distribute the land for a price. And at the end of the time shall HaMelech HaNegev butt up against him, and HaMelech HaTzafon shall storm against him with chariots, and with Parash, and with many ships, and he shall enter into the countries, and shall overflow and pass over. He shall enter also into the Eretz HaTzevi, and many will stumble, but these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom and Moab, and the chief of the Bnei Ammon. He shall stretch forth his hand also upon the countries, and Eretz Mitzrayim shall not escape. But he shall rule over the deposits of Zahav and of Kesef, and over all the desired things of Mitzrayim, and the Libyans and the Cushites shall be at his heels. But reports out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. Therefore shall he go forth with a Hema Gedolah to destroy and to annihilate many. And he shall plant the tents of his pavilion between the sea and the scifi Kodesh. Yet he shall come to his end, and there is none to help him. Daniel 12. And at that time shall Michael stand, the Sar Hagadol who standeth over the bonding of thy people, and there shall be an et tzara, such as has not been from the existence of a nation to that time, and in that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the Sefer. And the Rabim of them that sleep in the Admat Afar shall awake, some to Chaye Olam, and some to reproaches, and to Chaun Olam. And they that are wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to Tzedekah as the Kokavim, Leolam Vaed. But thou, Daniel, shut up the Devarim, and seal the Sefer until the Et Ketz. Rabim shall run to and fro, that Da'as may be increased. Then I, Daniel, looked, and two others were standing, the one on this side of the bank of the river, and the other on that side of the bank of the river. And one said to the man clothed in linen, who was above the waters of the river, How long shall it be to the Ketz of these wonders? And I heard the man clothed in linen, who was above the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto Shemayim, and swore, By the one who liveth ha'olam, it shall be for a time, times, and half a time. And when there is an end of breaking in pieces the Yad Am Kodesh, all these things shall come to an end. And I heard, but I understood not. Then said I, Adoni, when shall be the end of these things? And he said, Go thy way, Daniel, for the Devarim are closed up and sealed till the Et Ketz. Many shall be purified and made white and refined, but the Reshaim shall do wickedly, and none of the Reshaim shall understand. But the wise shall understand. And from the time that Hatamid shall be taken away, and the Shikut Shomem set up, there shall be 1,290 Yamim. Ashrei is he who waiteth, and attains to the 1,335 Yamim. But thou, go till Haketz, for thou shalt rest, and shall arise to thy allotted inheritance at the Ketz Hayamim.